Good morning. It is currently 6 o'clock and we are
6 o'clock in the morning. I just wish things could be better. I wanna get, oh yeah.
we're scheduled for my version
See,
today.
downstairs.
Okay. We're scheduled for my version today. We have to be there at 7:30. It's 6 o'clock. We're about to leave here to go. It's still dark outside. The hospital is about an hour away from where we live. So yeah, I wasn't allowed to eat or drink anything after 2 o'clock. So last night I woke up at like 1:30 and ate some oats and drank some water just so then I wouldn't be completely dying currently. Because I'm one of those pregnant women, like when I first wake up, I'm like so hungry, I like have to eat. So we did that, which I would highly recommend if you have to do something like that and they say you can't eat, like wake up an hour or like a half an hour before they say you can't, the last time you can eat, and eat like a snack or something just to have something in your stomach. But we're about to head to the hospital and I'll update you once we're there, and let's pray that this goes well and that this works and baby turns head down. Actually, let's pray that she's already head down. I don't think she is, but I need some good juju coming my way. So yeah, I'll update you once we're at the hospital. All right, we made it to the hospital. All of our bags are packed back there, just in case, because if anything happens, they do an automatic C-section. So we had to be prepared and make sure that we had everything. I'm feeling pretty nervous right now just because it's like unknown and I don't really know how it's gonna go, and trying to keep a level head, but just feeling nervous now that we're actually here. But we're gonna go in. We have to go up to labor and delivery and get checked in. Appointment's not until 10 o'clock. It's 7:30 right now. So I feel like we're going to be hanging out for a while. And I'm starting to get hungry, which is not that good, but what are you going to do? All right, we'll see you once we're in labor and delivery. So I'm in labor and delivery. I have my gown on. And they gave me these to wipe down myself in case I have emergency C-section, to not get an infection. But yeah, so this is where we are, and I'll be out soon. So now that the procedure is over, I want to talk a little bit about my experience, and since we weren't really able to film a lot in the hospital or in labor and delivery, and there were some things that were happening with me, so it just I wasn't really able to film that much. But now that the procedure is over, I want to talk just a little bit more about it and my experience with it. So the ECV was unsuccessful. There's a few factors that were kind of hindering to me. My amniotic fluid when I went in ended up being on the low side, which was weird because when I went a few days prior for a growth ultrasound, my fluid was normal, or within the normal range. They said it needed to be between 5 and 10 for them to be able to flip baby, and at the time it was almost 10, so my fluid was really perfect. But when I went in there, it was around 5. So he said that was something that could potentially lower the chances of it being successful. They gave me 2 IV bags to just try to help give some more amniotic fluid, which it did. But obviously it wasn't enough to help her turn. Also, they said her size and her positioning. So the way my baby is positioned, which she's kind of been positioned like this since I believe like 30 weeks. Her head is right up here underneath my ribs. Her back comes all the way down, and then her feet come up into the other side of my ribs. So they call this a Frank position, When they first did the ultrasound, she actually was more over here, and so they were going to try to turn her this way, and they thought that they would be able to do that. But by the time that they actually did the procedure, which I think I was hanging out there for about 4 hours before we actually had we went through with the procedure, because they had a couple C-sections that they had emergency C-section they had to do. So I ended up waiting 2 hours longer to get my procedure than what I was supposed to. And by that time, she had moved back over to this side. And that kind of just her positioning itself was making it harder for them to turn her. And also being a first-time mom. So because if you're a first-time mom, your uterus isn't as stretched out or used to being stretched out. So, and your abdominal muscles are tighter. So it makes it so they're not able to move baby as easily as they would, say, if this was your second or your third child. The procedure itself, I will say, really, I think in my head, I built it up to be more than what it actually was. I had watched a lot of videos on YouTube, and I had watched a lot of people, positive ones, saying that it was just a lot of pressure. It really wasn't that bad. And then I watched a lot of like negative ones where people had said, you know, it was the worst, most excruciating pain ever. Like, they don't recommend it. They wouldn't do it again. And so I was really kind of conflicted on, well, how is this going to feel? It was really built up in my head that it was going to be maybe more of an ordeal than what it actually ended up being. So I was really nervous going into the procedure. For one, I don't really like hospitals. I've never really been to a hospital. I've never had a huge surgery. Very minimal stuff for myself. And so hospitals really freak me out. Doctors really freak me out. The whole scenario, lights, everything really freaks me out. So on top of that, my anxiety was really high. My blood pressure was really high. I was just kind of having a panic attack. That being said, the midwives, the nurses, they were amazing. They were angels, and they were just there to really help keep me calm and relax me and let me know that it was going to be okay. The doctor who performed the ECV, he was really great too as well. And yeah, so the procedure itself took, I'd say, it was about 10 minutes long. They give you a shot. I can't remember what the name was, but it helps relax your uterus, and it makes you feel like you could literally, like, you're like just like jittery. It makes you feel like almost if you've ever taken like pre-workout. That's kind of how it makes you feel, like you need to just like go run, and like you have all this energy. And so that was kind of interesting. It makes your heart rate raise a little bit, which mine was already raised, so that was fun. But yeah, so the shot itself wasn't bad. It relaxes your uterus so it doesn't contract, so that it hopefully will help you move the baby. What they did for me, I was laying on the bed. They reclined the bed back to kind of help gravity with the turning of the baby. And I did no epidural. I know some doctors allow an epidural. My doctor said that he generally, if I want an epidural, I could do it, but generally he doesn't do epidurals. He kind of just checks in with mom, sees how mom's doing, if she can handle it. If she can't, he'll stop if she can't handle it, and if she says continue, he'll go. And I wouldn't have done the epidural anyways, because I really didn't think I couldn't handle it. Now looking back, I'm glad I didn't do the epidural. I was kind of contemplating it just because I've heard of how intense it can be, but I'm glad I didn't, because I was able to handle the uncomfortableness of the procedure. And so I'm glad I didn't do that. Also, it takes longer for the epidural to wear off than the procedure itself. So for me, it really just didn't make sense to do the epidural. So they went in there. I'm coming back. I had a wonderful midwife who was rubbing my feet, and I just was really tapping into, I did a hypnobirthing class we did hypnobirthing for, you know, birth, and I really tapped into that. I tapped into my breath. I was holding my husband's hand, and I had essential oils on my chest, and I had relaxing music in, and I was just really able to zone into, you know, thinking about turning my baby, and that this is to help bring my baby into a world in a more gentle sense. And so they went in, they grabbed her tushy, and there was 2 doctors that were helping with the procedure. They grabbed the tushy, they grabbed the head, and they tried to turn her this way. And they started to do it, and they got a certain point, and then the doctor was like, nope, we're stuck. She's not going to move. Let's try to do the other way. So then he grabs the tush again. They grab the head. They start to try to turn her the other way. And then got to a certain point, and they said, okay, nope. She's stuck there. She's not going to go. She's not going to budge. The problem was they weren't able to duck her head enough to get her to actually flip. So they tried 2 more times. By the 4th time, that's when I was like, okay, I don't think I can take one more time. It started to get more, I don't want to say painful. It was painful, but it wasn't that type of pain where you're like feeling, at least for me, I didn't feel like it was unbearable, if that makes sense. But the doctor kept checking in on me and kept asking, you know, like, are you doing okay? Do you want me to stop? And I said, nope, let's keep going. And he did 2 more times. And that 4th time, he was just like, she's not going to move. And I said, okay. They checked her heart rate. Her heart rate was fine the entire time. After each time that he moved her, he made sure to check her heart rate, which she was chilling in there, man. When they scanned her too, her legs were crossed up. She was like in a little womb hammock, and she was just chilling, having a great time, not gonna move. But her heart rate was fine, and after that, they kept me on the monitor for about an hour and a half, just to make sure that my heart rate went down, my blood pressure would go down, and baby was fine. She did awesome the whole time. Perfect NST, perfect, great acceleration. She was moving, was fine. And it's been a couple days since, and we just had an NST this morning. She's fine. So nothing happened, nothing bad happened. I know that there can be a couple risk factors, but yeah, nothing happened, and baby is still good. Besides being still breech. And at first, you know, it was really after the whole experience and realizing that the procedure was unsuccessful, I was pretty defeated at first. I was really sad because I really wanted her to be able to flip so I could give a natural birth, and it just wasn't in the cards. But after, like I said, I had some wonderful midwives, and after talking to the midwives, you know, they kind of just explained to me that there's so many reasons why babies don't turn that we may not understand. You know, she said that a lot of times, and she also said too that a lot of times babies end up turning later on, but there's just no studies that show that, because doctors like to schedule C-sections before moms go into labor. So the chances of baby flipping, you know, before going into labor, they don't have a lot of studies on that, because most doctors do a scheduled C-section between 38 and 39 weeks, which there's that. But she also said, you know, there's a lot of reasons, like her cord, like normally the umbilical cord is really long, but maybe hers is really small. And so when babies go to turn, they feel that tug on their belly and they go, ooh, I don't like that. I'm gonna go back to where I was. Or maybe there's something in there that's jabbing her and she doesn't like the way that feels, so she stays where she is. So they say that a lot of times that you won't know that until you're in there and you take her out, and then you can kind of assess from there. Or sometimes babies just don't, they're just comfortable where they are, and it's just how it is. And so, you know, that kind of made me feel a little bit better. But moving forward, we are scheduled for a C-section next week. So baby will be here soon. so soon, in like the next like 3 days she'll be here, which is crazy. They did say that for some reason if she ends up turning, I will be able to do an induction versus a C-section, which would be great. But at this point I've become okay with whatever happens. I'm okay with if it's a C-section, I'm okay with if it's an induction. I'm just ready at this point to have baby here and to meet her, and we're so excited for her to come and just for her to be healthy. And honestly, it'll be nice to not have to stress so much about my blood pressure and if she's doing okay, and you know, trying all these techniques to get her to spin, you know, and just to be able to have her here and be able to like love her outside of the belly. So yeah, I will say that my belly currently is pretty sore after the procedure. I didn't have any bruising, which is great, but it is definitely sore. The second day was probably the worst, and the more that she moves, the more that I'm like, oh, okay, that doesn't feel so great. But yeah, all in all, the procedure really wasn't that bad. I would, if this happens again with future children, I would go ahead and have an ECV, just because even though my experience, I had a lot of anxiety going up to it, now knowing what the procedure is like and knowing how it feels and, you know, my experience with it, I would do it again if I needed to have this happen. So yeah, that is my ECV experience, and you know, we are just so excited to meet her. So yeah, if you are scheduled for an ECV, I would just recommend, like, you know, do some research, but don't like stress yourself out about the procedure, and try to really just like tap into yourself, tap into your breath, and just breathe through the procedure, because doing that really helped me. And having like a really great supportive team on your side. Like I said, my husband was holding my hand and playing relaxing music for me, and I had a midwife down by my feet rubbing my feet, and that just like really helped connect me to myself and distract me from what was going on when they were trying to do the procedure.